Let's do man.
Oh, we're live.
Already.
Hey guys, just so you know, we've been having
We're doing live.
vicious, cutthroat debates about Spyro the Dragon and Skylanders behind the scenes. So maybe next time. Hi everyone, I am #1 Marmaduke fan. We will be discussing chapters 5 through 10 of My Hero Academia today. So let me introduce my guests. First,
whoever likes the Skylanders needs to get their head checked.
All right, for another time though. So first, we have the mysterious electric hedgehog Pokemon, All Punch Man.
Hello. Yeah, I guess. I suppose electric hedgehog could work as a quirk, would it?
Yeah, people are born with strange-looking, like people have strange faces or strange.
Yeah, like the frog girl, but instead like a hedgehog.
Oh,
man.
Froppy.
Yeah.
Suya
Asui.
Yeah, all of these names are puns. It's hard enough. I have to work hard to remember how to pronounce these names, and they're all a giant pun. Okay, so next we have independent artist and writer Alice Snow.
Hello.
And streamer and artist Spyro Shirticle.
Hi, that's me.
Bada bing. So where last we left off, Deku had successfully been accepted into UA based on the heroism he demonstrated in his test. So I think the game plan for this is I'll probably just flip through the chapter real quick just to kind of like freshen up our memories, and then we'll discuss it and say what stands out to us. So chapter 5 opens with the teachers discussing the results and noticing that Katsuki is in the lead based on his ability to kick loads of butt, but he didn't rescue anybody. Deku ranks like 7th, so not the bottom, but not that great based on his hero score. He touches base with All Might about it, and All Might basically gives him the mental picture of you can't control that power yet. You're at either 0% or 100%. So you have to find a mental image that will allow you to control it. And as they're training, All Might thinks about how, my torch is going to wither out and die, and your torch is going to grow brighter and brighter. Mom cheerfully sends Deku off to his first day at school, and it's a crazy building, giant doors everywhere. He meets in his class.
If you know what's going on in their world, that's usually there for a reason. Horikoshi put that there for a reason because there are people with quirks that make them very big, and they would not fit underneath a normal door. It'd be like seeing Mr. X try to come in through a 5-foot door.
And
that's an interesting little detail. I didn't even think of that.
I think Deku actually calls attention to it. Found it. What a giant door. Has to be accessible to everyone. Yeah, the world building is really well thought out. All right, I'm not going to do the entire chapter in one go because I think that's a lot of info. So, any thoughts on kind of like how we sort of lead out of the entrance exam arc into the Deku and his kind of like powwow with All Might?
I don't think they want to admit that he's powwow yet. It's still in the back.
Yeah, there is kind of they have like a gag where he screams All Might, and then All Might has to say, "Oh no, say oops, repeat after me, just my eyes playing tricks on me." So there's still this element of a secret identity that I think Torinoshi is All Might's secret identity. Toshinori. Okay, so Toshinori is still trying to keep under wraps who he really is and the nature of his power. The main thing that stood out to me is I like how Horikoshi always adds like a simple visual idea. So the abstract idea is that he doesn't know how to control his power. So the visual idea is, well, it's like swirling water in a cup in a cup. The more graceful and the more practiced you are, the better you get at controlling or moving this power through your body, almost like ki energy.
There's actually something about that goblet that you're talking about that I took note of was that in the anime, they drew it actually kind of simply. So they did have like kind of the martini style glass for the first one where it was like just bubbling over the top. But then the second one, you could tell it was like definitely a thicker glass cup. But what I really liked about the manga is that this one's like decorated too, and so it's kind of like a reference to like the a beautiful glass like for how much you, I don't know, maybe like the worth of your quirk as it gets more powerful and more usable.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
you're becoming more.
also there is a reason why it wasn't as detailed in the anime as it is in the manga. Because when
Probably.
you're animating, you have
Yes.
to
Time.
lessen
Time and
the
budget.
yeah.
It's true.
No, it's because drawing stuff like that so detailed, it takes a lot of time, and honestly, nothing would get out if they tried it.
Yeah. Are we going to discuss 5.jpg there?
What?
Because I know you, Marmaduke, you had some comments about
Oh
this
yeah,
page in particular.
I just thought this was so cool. So like I've noticed a lot of manga artists do this, but they'll have like lots of little boxes, and it's their way of saying the day ended or later in that day. So
Mhm.
I asked Twitless Comics, who's like a comics historian, like he's really academic and technical about this stuff. I think he said they're called insets. So it's basically I don't know I don't know the correct terminology, but basically we're using the gutter, the white from the gutter is stretching into the panel repeatedly, and that's a way to kind of like suggest a scene fade or the end of the day and transitioning into something new. I don't know. I just like looking as I'm reading this. I'm looking for lots of little techniques I can rip off for later.
You're inspired. You're not ripping it off.
Exactly. Yeah. I'd like to talk about Deku's mom real quick because there's kind of this neat subplot going on with her where she technically is the one who sort of crushed his spirit when he was a little boy. And I really like how it's handled because they don't make
Mhm.
him emo or resentful about it. They just sort of have the mom almost like quietly off screen. It's like she kind of like realizes, man, I probably shouldn't have said that, and so she's really trying to be supportive. So I thought that was pretty well built up.
I think that goes back to passing the torch, because for her it's very different. She didn't become a hero, so to her this is entirely new. She doesn't know what to say.
Yeah, her quirk is that she
So
can.
she wouldn't be able to pass any torch to him outside of just parenting.
Yeah, her ability is that she can like summon tiny objects to her. It's almost like it's a
Mhm.
very domestic power, right? It'd be useful for being a mom and taking care of things around the house. And I even kind of like the detail that when she's older, she's like a little, she's gained a little weight in her old age. She seems like a sweet. We don't get much insight into her psychology, but she seems like a sweet character, and it's nice that Deku has. If All Might is his male role model, it's nice that he has like a good female mother figure in his life too.
Yeah, and actually, I that was something that I had taken note of too. Is that like, I don't know if it was like an intentional, um, this is we all make mistakes when we're human. So like parents, parents make mistakes. Sometimes they say things and with the best intentions, and it just doesn't come out correctly. And I mean, I really resonate with that a lot because that's something that I've dealt with for my whole life. Is that like I have the best of intentions when I'm saying something, but it does not come out correctly. And then I end up like really screwing something up. And so just like watching, just even in the few first chapters, seeing how, yeah, she actually like takes that responsibility of understanding that she knew that she kind of said something awful and didn't mean it that way, and comes around and is like, I'm really sorry. And she's trying to change. And I guess that like, because of my situation, I thought that meant a lot more to me specifically in this than maybe other people see it. But like, I know that my mom has said some things too that I'm not, that I take with me now everywhere I go. And I know she did never meant it to be like that, but it's just like just a parental thing that she just didn't realize that she did, you know?
You grow, yeah. You grow
Mhm.
over time, and I even I like that it's handled subtly, right? Like
Yes.
we don't need to see
Especially
Deku.
for,
Yeah.
like, I have autism, so I can't do anything with social cues. I am completely not that good at it.
Mhm.
So this sort of thing that she has is a nod to that as well. Like, people who are different don't see the world the same. To her, she thought that she was helping, but in truth, she wasn't.
Mhm.
But because of the way she sees the world, it's hard for her to relate.
Mm.
Well, would
I
it
can click with
have
it.
been would it have been better if Deku's mom had been slain by Tulsa Doom's marauding band of orcs when Deku was only 3 years old, and then his house burned down, and it kind of a tragic, angsty backstory for him.
I think
Do you like it
I
better
don't
this
think
way?
that I don't think that that works for Deku in the
I think
slightest.
I think he needs a little normalcy, right? Like for me, a good superhero story, there has to be, like for Spider-Man, it's the contrast between, marital troubles with Mary Jane and whatever kooky plan Venom is up to
Hmm.
for the week. I feel like Deku's mom is grounding the story a little bit, and then of course the contrast is crazy superhero school. And uh, when he arrives, the
Okay.
thing he's most worried about is that the two scary guys could be in his class. Both of them are in his class, but
Hey, if we were to have quirks, what quirk do you think you would have?
us?
Uh-huh.
I don't know. Talk a million miles an hour quirk.
Uh,
Hmm.
hmm.
Well, punching, you'd have to have like
I,
incredible like punching powers,
Yeah,
right?
probably punching, since that's the whole. I mean, technically he's also got lightning powers, but it's mostly about punching and kicking people with lightning. So, yeah, I guess punching powers. Um, hopefully not anything to do with my mother though. Um, I'm not going to go into that. But
Alice, do you have any thoughts on what power you'd pick?
Flight.
oh
Nice.
yeah, can we pick our powers?
Yeah.
Because the quirks just happen randomly though, don't they? Like there's
Uh-huh.
no input.
Yeah, it's
Um,
completely genetic. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. I mean, yeah, flight and invisibility have always been pretty high. The power to have more powers, obviously, that's always a cool one. I don't know. We'd have to have a whole stream on it to really get into it. But what about you, Spyro?
Uh, I mean, yeah, I've always liked the idea of flight, and then maybe I could like, fly with my baby hawks. But but I guess like realistically, it'd probably be something along the lines of something you'd see like in Naruto where, like he has art jutsu with Sai. You draw something and it comes to life.
Hmm.
Be
I
careful
think
what you draw.
I
SpongeBob learned
know.
that the hard way.
First, I draw the space, then I erase the more distinguishing features, and then I have a perfect circle.
Or see, I could just draw myself some wings, and then I get both best of both worlds.
Anything you can apply creatively.
That's
Uh,
right.
I don't know if I've mentioned this yet, but
Mm.
one thing I really resonate with is how different the quirks are, like down to they're named quirks because everybody's is very unique. I like that vibe. It's not just everybody has firepower. Well, there are some people who have elemental themed powers, but there's consistently very weird and different things going on. So at school, Ida, I just want to call attention to this. Ida kind of like praises Deku for seeing through the hidden meaning of the test, even though Deku basically just got got lucky. It wasn't that he was smart. It was just that he was
He was flying by the seat of his pants.
Exactly. I like that Ida's getting a little development in the back. Like it's Deku's first day, but Ida is getting some development too.
Yeah, I actually really hated Ida in the beginning. It's just such
He turns into a nice guy later.
Right. Well,
But yeah, I
absolutely,
really
but
did hate him in the earlier chapters.
especially considering like this is their first day of school and he's already acting like he's the class rep and he's not. And he's just like, you should be sitting down, take your feet off the table. I'd be like, yo, dude.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Calm down.
he's senpai, isn't he? He's the senpai guy, you know.
He wants to be. That doesn't mean he is.
Okay, so this is kind of cool. I don't think her name has been. We know her name's Ochaku, but they still think of each other as the plain-looking boy and the nice
Ouch.
girl.
I thought that was so funny.
So Ochako is very enthusiastic and kind of like is building up Deku about how cool his power is. And we get a little insight in this stuff will be important for Bakugo later. So Bakugo was ticked as hell when he found out that Deku got in because it spoiled Bakugo's precious little plan to be the first kid from his school to get into UA. And I think Deku stands up to him, and this really strikes Bakugo because he's not used to seeing Deku do anything other than kind of like cringe away from him. So something about Deku getting.
In other words, he
UA,
didn't know that Deku actually had balls.
Yeah. And it gets under his skin, and this will be developed later in their fight. So we're establishing that for Bakugo, Deku manning up and being even on like the same competitive field as him gets under his skin.
And honestly, like, that's some of my favorite parts of the anime that aren't in the manga is the more close up, very expression filled scenes with Bakugo, just for like glimpses when he's like, I don't know, it's just like I love how they drew him whenever he has those slight moments of like, what's going on and like, why is he standing up to me? It's just the best.
See if I can get a look at his face. Yeah.
I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna go there. You guys just keep discussing.
All right.
Deku and Bakugo, and I'm just gonna tap
I'm kind of curious on like Mr. Hyper Rationalist Eraserhead. Like I swear, I think this guy has to read Ayn Rand. I bet $100 that this guy reads Ayn Rand's The Fountainhead in his. No, I was going to say in his spare time, but he has no spare time. Their teacher's a weirdo. Who?
Wait, which one? You mean Homeless Emperor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think his real name is like Aizawa or something.
Yeah.
But I just remember him as Eraserhead because the superhero names are easier for me to remember. So Eraserhead lives his life purely rationally. He doesn't like wasting time. He doesn't want to give his students any time to screw around because we're going to put you through the ringer here at UA. And there's this cool bit where UA is known for having a freestyle educational system. So apparently he has the power to expel them at will. So no sooner does Deku get in than he's under threat of being kicked out by the crazy homeroom teacher. The setup is they're going to do physical tests, but previously they were forced to do tests without using their powers. So there's this kind of teaching thing where I'm going to let you do these physical tests, but you all have to use your powers as creatively as possible. I want you to test the absolute limits of what your power is. And for Eraserhead, this is like, man, the government, the world is so irrational. You guys should have been this is how you guys should have been learning all along.
Honestly, the first time I heard that, I was concerned that Eraserhead was like a villain just disguised as a hero. Because it seemed more like the strong. To me, it sounded like he was saying the strong must be trained to overpower the weak. That's what I got the first time.
He's definitely a lot more negative. He's a really different type of hero than All Might. All Might's very, muscular and straightforward. The thing that strikes me about Eraserhead is his power doesn't really help him fight. His power cancels out other people's power. So technically, he has to be a really tough martial artist. So there's this. It's not brought out in this chapter yet, but there's this really interesting thing where he's giving Deku a hard time, and basically his challenge to Deku is, if you don't have what it takes to be here, it's not kind to let you pretend you can be a hero if you really can't be. So he's asking the same question: can you really be a superhero if you don't have the superpower, or if you can't control the superpower? But he really is kind of he's not a very strong hero. He's a guy who has to use a power very creatively and intelligently just to keep up. So I think he's trying to bring something out of Deku by being hard on him. It's a very tough love kind of guy.
Yeah, well, I mean, as a teacher, I mean, that's kind of part of his job. You got to toughen up the kids and make sure they get the best out of them. But I'm actually wondering a couple things now, just thinking about it. One is about the homeless emperor thing, and the other one is about his role as maybe being one of these like like who watches the watchers kind of hero. Um, and that second one I think would probably be a little bit more relevant, but because his superpower or quirk, whatever, is that he can nullify quirks by staring at you, right?
Yeah.
Like if he
And
sees
But
you
only for as long as he can stare at you. So
without
basically,
blinking.
Yeah,
like a eternal blinking contest.
as he's staring at you, he nullifies your powers. So for someone like that, right? In most cases, it's kind of a useless power, right? Because you can't fly, you can't blow things up, you can't do any of this stuff. But it is really good against other superheroes because you can take out anybody just by staring at them, right? So a character like that would make an excellent, like a spy or a police officer, or somebody who was charged with defeating other superheroes, right? So
When they go
um,
bad.
yeah, so maybe that's part of why he's so rational and why he's encouraging, people to use their quirks more than the government allows, because he's a person who knows that if you do wind up stepping out of line, he can just step in and take you out. He just stares at you, and you can't do your bad stuff anymore. So I don't know if that's something that'll come up later, or if
he'll talk about it. He'll talk a bit about that a little bit. So maybe that who watches the Watchmen
yeah,
vibe. I think he
like
brings that
literally
up a little
watching
bit.
in his case.
Yeah. So I think in chapter 6, he brings that up because basically his challenge to Deku is, if you can't use your power without getting hurt, how are you going to be a help to anyone, right? You can maybe save one person and then that's it. You're out. Let me share the screen so I can pull it up for us.
And that's what
Here
we
we
talked
go.
about last time too. A little bit. We touched on that.
I like how we get all this information about the characters. Like, we get, not only do we get character design notes on the design sensibilities, then we get like the giant, here's information about his superpower. Here's details on his hair, curly down to the roots. Midoriya's sweat, his sweat glands never have a day off. Horikoshi's very thoughtful about the details of his characters, I think.
Yeah, the other thing I was wondering, about like his character design specifically, because when I first saw him, the first thing that I thought was homeless emperor, right? And I don't know if, because I know you, Mom, you're reading through One Punch Man, but
I haven't gotten to
know if
that
you've
yet.
gotten
So there's
Okay.
there's a homeless guy in One Punch Man.
Yeah, he's actually one of like the strong, supervillain kind of villains, and his name's Homeless Emperor, and he's got all kinds of like crazy homeless emperor powers. He thinks he was visited by God one day, and God's actually like this mysterious demonic supervillain that grants him almost like All Might, really. Like he's like the evil version of Deku, basically. Like he gets his power from evil All Might and uses that to fight people. But the character design looks very much like like homeless emperor, and I'm wondering if maybe that's not a coincidence, or if this teacher is supposed to be either like a hobo, or maybe like a hikikomori, like an autistic shut-in kind of character.
I think Horikoshi wrote a note where he says, I think he has an apartment with absolutely nothing in it. Like he just has an empty room
Oh,
that he
okay.
lives in.
So like an inverse hikikomori or something. Instead of living with, because you guys are familiar with that, right? Like the super otakus.
Oh, okay. Wait. So like
Mm.
otaku as a negative. So we use otaku as like I like anime, but you mean otaku as like
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
a loser. Yeah.
Well, there's like I mean there are regular otakus who are kind of losers. Like yeah, in Japan it has a lot more of a pejorative meaning. Like you're not, it's kind of like incel. Like you don't want to say yeah I'm an incel. It's not a point of pride, right? But there's also this phenomenon of like shut-ins, people who basically like live in their apartments constantly, consume anime, pornography, internet, right?
Yeah.
It's been
Like,
going on for
yeah. Don't
decades in
socialize.
Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Co-
it's been going on like for decades in Japan. Like they've been like neets, right? Like I guess we'd call them neets over here, NEETS.
Mm-hmm.
Not in education, something
I watched an
something
anime with one of
employment.
those in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, those kind of characters, and they're known for being kind of mentally imbalanced, and having apartments just stuffed with things, right? Especially like mangas and anime and video game paraphernalia.
Now,
Um,
okay, so to connect it to Eraserhead, like
mhm.
he has some really creepy elements to him, but he's also kind of like a workaholic. So I don't know,
Yeah,
maybe it's like it's not that he's a neat, it's that he looks like a neat, but he's really just like
yeah,
obsessively
he's
concerned
like an
about being the
inverse
best
neat.
employee of the year. Yeah,
Yeah. So
Well,
I'll work 20 hours to get employee of the month. Why do I need to shower?
yeah,
oh my gosh.
yeah,
It's
that
funny
that
actually
kind
when
of
I
thing.
was looking at him, one of the notes that I had made was that his eyes specifically, were drawn like Kakashi. And yes, I'm bringing back
Yeah.
Naruto. But so something anytime you see like the droopy eyes, Kakashi's kind of similar to Aizawa in the fact that he's a character that he has seen more of his fair share than most people, and so you know um Kakashi was known for not letting any of his pupils through in order to kind of protect them, because he's like, if you're not ready to work as a team, then you're not ready to be a jonin or anything like that. So in that sense, is that's how I kind of saw Aizawa, is that he's seen a lot in his life and he's trying to protect the kids from themselves.
The
And
unfairness of the world.
yeah, that's kind of how I saw him.
Yeah. I'll be unfair to prepare you for how sucky it is out there.
Mhm.
Very good. Yeah, a good connection, Spyro. I thought that, but I didn't say it. You reminded me.
Oh,
So,
but I
good
definitely
connect.
see the homelessness. I mean, especially him rolling around as a caterpillar in a bean bag, like
That's actually a sleeping bag.
right, yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I meant.
But he always pulls stuff out of there. You wonder how much stuff he actually has in that bag, in that sleeping bag, because he pulls
It's a
out drinks,
sleeping bag of holding.
clothing, uh, traps, everything.
Which is why there's nothing in his home. He put it all in a sleeping bag.
mm.
Uh,
So to continue with the plot, we get a brief glimpse of everybody's powers. Some of them, like Ochaku, doesn't really know how to use her power in running, but later she can use her power to throw a ball really well. So it's kind of making the point that the
Yes, she's referred
powers
to
have
as
different applications.
Infinity Girl because she sent that ball into the atmosphere and into space.
I wish that was her superhero name. I like Infinity, and there isn't even like a Marvel character or a DC character called Infinity Girl. I'm making a headcanon fix.
Uh, copyright that. Copyright that right now.
Yeah.
Oh no, I thought Uravity was quite ingenious
Because
because of
it's a
play
pun
of her
on
name.
gravity, right? And her name.
Yep, exactly.
Everything's a pun.
Yeah.
We'll get into that. So, okay. So what I like about this whole sequence is we're seeing the variety of their powers, and we're seeing different applications of their powers in different situations. So, okay. This is another example of you need a mental image. So, Deku's problem is he can't control his power. He's at 0 or 100. So the gag is we'll come up with a mental picture. And so the mental picture he comes up with is an egg exploding in the microwave. So the only thing that All Might can tell
I
him
did
is,
that before.
yeah,
I've actually done that before, and trust
yeah, it
me,
works.
it broke the microwave. It actually broke the
Wow,
microwave.
that's actually really interesting to know.
So don't try this at home, kids. But anyway, so the microwave is the mental picture Deku has to lock onto to remember how to control himself. But he hasn't tried it yet. All he has is a mental picture, but he still doesn't know how to do it. So obviously the threat is everybody has some sort of incredible performance. There's no way he's going to he's probably going to be at the bottom of the list, and the person at the bottom of the list gets kicked out. So just as he throws the ball, something cancels out his power, which is how we learn how Eraserhead's power works. And Eraserhead gives him like this epic speech that were you just planning on crippling your arm and having us come in and save you? Either if you use it, I'm gonna kick you out, or don't use it. Parentheses, and you're definitely going to be at the bottom, right? So it seems like Deku is in this completely unwinnable situation. So what he tells himself is, this is the best I can do for now. So he puts all of his power into his finger tip to blast the ball. And what's really cool is this is something that baseball players do. You want to wrap your finger around the ball and then throw it, and then use your fingers to give it the last little whip to throw it as far as possible. So it works in real life, but in the universe of this comic, Deku puts his superpower into his fingertip to blast it away and only break his finger. I can still move.
And he beats
You'd
Bakugo
think that he
by
likes
0.1.
pain with how much he does.
He did? Oh, I didn't notice that. Okay, I want to find that.
Yes. It was funny because when I rewatched My Hero, like for the third time or whatever the other day, I was looking at that because I wanted to remember. And yeah, Bakugo's at 705.2 and Deku is at 705.3.
Nice.
So it's even more of a hit at Bakugo.
Yeah, good catch. Wow. Okay, that just reminded me. One kind of funny thing is that Ochako improved her record from middle school, and her record in middle school was 7.28, and her record now is 7.15. And then later, when Deku is running, he doesn't have any superpowers, so he just runs flat out as hard as he can, and he does really good, right? So it's sort of like if you look up these stats, Deku's basically performing at really high, really high performance for a human being. But then, of course, everybody's getting like these ridiculous, beyond human abilities records with their power. I think Horikoshi pays a lot of attention to like things like timers and records and numbers.
Agreed.
All right, great catch, Heidi. I'm going to pull up the next chapter for us, chapter 7. What do you guys think of Belly Button? What do you guys think of Belly Button Man?
He annoys me. He annoyed me for the longest time.
Oh, I was sitting here like, who's Belly Button
Aoyama.
Man? And then I realized I was like, oh, the Laser Man, Aoyama. Yeah.
I can't stop twinkling.
He hi, gluten free.
Welcome to the chat.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of him. He's never been one of my favorites. He's just oddball. But I mean, he starts getting a little better, but it's just still not the trope that I go for, I guess.
He's still kind of like just a background. There are a lot of weirdos. There are a lot of the characters are just kind of like weirdos at this point. We don't know too much about them.
Yeah, I think he's still one of the weirdest weirdos. I mean, the fromage episodes are just like, what on earth?
Yeah, this is actually the second time I've forgotten about him, because I forgot about him in the last stream too. 'Cause I remember
Honestly, he turns from a weirdo to like a big stalker later of the Deku.
Deku,
okay,
do
yeah,
you like cheese?
because that was going to be my question, whether like, he suddenly turns out to be some super important character or something, but he just kind of stays as comic relief then, or
I would say that all the characters in this show have been shown to be very good at having a progression. So I think
okay,
that even he has a progression, not necessarily to like make him a main character by any means, but like he gets better. So
to fill him out.
yeah.
Spyro, something you kind of remind me of is the
Mhm.
Naruto connection. So I definitely see elements of like the plot of Naruto throughout MHA, but one thing I think it does really well is it kind of promises you in the opening chapters that we're going to have a big cast of characters. They're all going to have their own unique and cool powers. But whereas Naruto ends up just focusing on like the main three and Naruto and Sasuke.
Sasuke!
Yeah, Sasuke. Right. I think MHA does a better job of having the rest of the characters. I don't know, even if they don't get like their own moment where they're the star, they at least feel like they have a reason to be here, even if it's just for
Oh,
comic relief.
100%.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's an ensemble cast.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. Because I think Naruto did a good job of making you care about everybody. But I mean, I still didn't care about some of the people. But yeah, I think My Hero is just a wee bit better at it.
All right. So Bakugo, look, my reaction to that information, Bakugo is utterly shocked by Deku's use of his power and breaking his record. Eraserhead has to physically stop him from beating the crap out of Deku right there.
I love that scene
yeah.
right there. The Herc.
Do you guys happen to know? This is probably just a complete stab in the dark, but is Hirokoshi, is he a fan of David Lynch by any chance?
The artist?
The filmmaker David Lynch, the
Hmm.
guy who did
I haven't
Twin
heard.
Peaks, and because one of his really famous films was Eraserhead, so I'm trying to wonder
Oh,
if there
really?
might be a connection.
I mean, he has talked about how he's a really big fan of like American comics and American media. So I wonder
Yeah.
if maybe that's like one of the things that maybe he thought about. I'm not sure.
Okay, yeah, because I'm just I don't know. I'm just kind of spitballing it right now, but I'm wondering because one of the things that David Lynch is really fond of is making commentary on media and on people like watching TV. For example, so maybe the watching is like a Lynchian sort of thing.
Or
I
maybe
don't know.
or maybe the superheroes as reality TV stars.
Yeah,
angle.
I'd have to read more and see Eraserhead in action a bit more to be able to come up with something. But and like
I'll
the
keep an eye-
bandages too, because the bandages played a role in the film Eraserhead, with like a baby who was swaddled in a bunch of bandages, kind of like how Eraserhead was swaddled in his sleeping bag of many things. So I don't know. This is just completely off the cuff, but
All right.
that's something I'll have
look
to look into, I
His
guess. Or,
sleeping
I'll have to
bag
look into it,
house.
yeah, if because I know you guys have more sources on like kind of what he thinks in how he operates, and if you can find anything on him giving an interview about like how he likes David Lynch, that might be an interesting avenue to
Yeah, for
explore.
sure.
But hey, that's just a theory. Anime theory.
Yeah.
Watch it.
Please don't say it.
Yeah, and in relation to that too, I mean, I was going to say, because there are a lot of these tropes that are very common in shonen mangas. The thing that I was thinking throughout these episodes was actually Akira, and kind of like an inverse Tetsuo Kaneda relationship. especially at the end, there are like a few lines where it's almost like it's taken from a scene from Akira. So, I'm not saying like you ripped off Akira or anything, because those are very very popular tropes.
Would you believe I haven't watched Akira yet?
You haven't?
And I call myself a weeb. Yeah.
Oh my god! All right, well we'll have to do that
everyone's
eventually.
referencing it, and I don't know. It's
I
apparently
don't
really
know
good.
either.
Oh my god!
I think I bought the. Okay, I think I recently bought the anniversary
I wanted
edition.
to throw up.
Yeah,
At the end.
I made her watch it, and there's some really gross bits in it that
Oh, great.
not safe for work bits. But
And
yeah,
that's the motorcycle. Every time there's like a motorcycle that slides across the screen, that's an Akira reference. Yeah.
Yeah, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle thing that they ripped off. That's all from that was. Yeah, Akira's done a lot of stuff, but there's I think it was towards the end, but there's part of it where he's talking about like, oh, I used to be a runt, but now I'm stronger. Um, in the anime specifically, so some of the scenes were almost but not quite verbatim from Akira. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But again, like I said, and I'm sure Naruto has plots like that.
Okay, and
as
you're
well.
seeing that dynamic between Deku and Bakugo, or
Yeah,
you're seeing
specifically between Deku and Bakugo. It's this kind of friendly rivalry, like they're frenemy rivals.
Oh, it's not friendly yet.
Rivalries, maybe. I mean, well, yeah. I mean, they're not like friendly, but they're not like mortal enemies either. Like they grew up as kind of friends who hated each other.
I have a thought on that. So this is actually something I picked up from reading different versions of it. In the Japanese edition, the sub, Ochako describes it as a fated rivalry between men, and then in the manga, it's changed to something like, oh, you're like destined rivals or something. So I think what's kind of interesting, it's gendered in the Japanese. And then in the English dub, it was softened a little bit, right? Oh, we don't want it to be gendered. But I think there maybe is this concept of two boys who are intense rivals for one another. And Naruto and Sasuke. Oop, I'm getting some background noise from Alice. All right. So I think like Naruto and Sasuke fulfill that. And I definitely see that showing up in Bakugo and Deku a bit. So, okay, so I want to hop ahead. Yeah.
Popular trope. So,
yeah. So hopping ahead, the big twist is Eraser said he was lying about expelling someone. Izuku screams his heart out in shock at this. This is a nice touch. Momo figured it was a lie, so she saw through the lie, which is just a nice little hint that she's got a brain. She's got a head on her shoulders. So All Might is annoyed at Eraserhead.
Was it a lie?
Maybe it was a double fake lie. He was perfectly willing to kick Deku out, but maybe he saw something. So the debate is interesting because the question All Might asks him is, do you see his potential as well? And Eraserhead's answer is, he doesn't have no chance. His chances aren't zero. That's all I'll say. So yes, he does see Deku's potential, but he's not as optimistic or upbeat about it as All Might is.
I think
and
actually, I was just gonna say, I think actually they do touch on that in, as far as I remember. I don't remember what episode it comes up in, or maybe it was this episode and I'm forgetting, but they have shown that Aizawa has kicked people out of the school before. So it wasn't actually out of his range to do so. He was probably very much ready to kick Deku out, but because he saw a small glimpse of him starting to improve from what he had seen, I think he was allowing that faith to get the better, or to like actually let him stay, because I do think it was a double lie sort of thing.
Yeah. I'm just theorizing here, but I think Aizawa might see a little of himself in Deku, right? So if All Might's big, strong, manly man, Deku's a little bit of a weirdo, and Aizawa is a little bit of a weirdo. So yeah, it's sort of like now Deku has two dad figures in his life. He's got his, big strong himbo dad, and he's got his weird psycho workaholic dad
Yes.
helping him out.
Yeah.
And you do see that in like the future seasons too, where Aizawa really opens up, not necessarily to the class, but you just as like a viewer, you're seeing him open up to kind of showing that he really does care about this class and it is like his family. So I do see that reference.
Yeah, I like Aizawa, and we're going to get to see some more cool stuff from him later. So Deku visits Recovery Girl. She heals him and gives him some Pez, and we get some world
I love
building
that.
where, yeah, if you get healed too much, it'll use up your body's stamina and you'll die. So why can't Deku just keep getting ridiculously injured and healed all the time? Because it'll still have attacks on him. So he's really got to get control of his quirk. At some point, I love this scene, and this is going to set up something. So, Ochako introduces herself, and she assumes that Izuku's name is Deku because that's what she heard Bakugo call him. And as he's explaining that that's just a name that Bakugo gave him to bully him, Ochako says, well, Deku, it just screams, do your best. I kind of like it, the way it sounds. Deku's fine. So he instantly accepts Deku as his real name. Ochako's optimistic. So in something negative, getting made fun of by a bully and basically Deku means useless. So Kachan is basically saying you're useless, Deku. But Ochako sees something optimistic and positive in that. So she's starting to get Izuku to think differently about what the name Deku means.
And actually, I had a question on that. In the anime, during that flashback where he's talking about how he got the name, and this is just because I don't know like Japanese by any means. So, but Bakugo's like holding up a bucket and he's showing like this letter or like this symbol right here, and I was assuming that was what Deku was, but what was the full word? Do we know that it was kind of like taken from?
Oh boy, I don't know. Okay. I know that kanji can be read differently in different scenarios. That's why you could have someone with the same name, but they'll say it's spelled with the character for moon, right?
Right.
So
Like light Yagami.
Yeah. Yep. So you could have two different kanji that sound similar but mean different things. Or maybe you could have kanji read with different sounds. So it sounds like Izuku's name could be whatever the characters are could be pronounced as Deku, and that's the word that means useless. And I wish I knew it, but when Ochako says it in the Japanese sub, she says it sort of sounds like something, and it's like an encouraging expression. So Deku A or whatever it is, it sounds like you can do it. Do your best, like something a mom might say to a little kid who's trying to learn how to walk, right?
Right.
When she becomes a hero, she'll be a good mother figure.
Yeah,
she will.
Oh, and Ida's kind of like Deku's made friends. He's made friends with Ochako and Ida. So I like it. You go to high school and you just hang out with a couple people, and you're friends. You're friends now. One subtle point. I like how Ida. He's really serious and really intimidating, and Deku kind of perceives that. Well, it's not that he's scary; it's just that he's earnest. And Ida kind of latches onto Deku as like, this guy's smart. This guy gets stuff. I want to hang out with this guy. He seems to know what's what. And our setup is tomorrow they will test with All Might. And is this really where it ends? I hope my pages aren't weird. So, and then sometimes they'll have like completely ordinary studies as well. Hang on, I gotta check my pages, guys, behind the scene to make sure I have everything I need. So just share your thoughts on the chapter in general so far.
This is what my episode. Oh, this is still episode 5 technically, yeah.
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 I see what I did. Okay, I screwed up I missed the last few pages. So all that was going to happen was All Might was going to show up, give them their costumes, and they were going to step out in their awesome looking costumes. And All Might says, now from this moment on, you guys are heroes. They have a government subsidy to build them cool and amazing superhero costumes.
Yeah. Which the costumes in and of themselves are already really neat to look at and analyze. Oh yeah, that's the thing I saw with the hand, and he was talking about drawing hands and stuff.
I give them a lot of care because besides the face, I think that hands are the body part most capable of showing expression and character. On the flip side, drawing hands that aren't expressive is especially tough because there's nothing to go on. For that reason, there's one character in this volume who's especially difficult and who had me on the verge of tears every week. It makes me resent myself. It'll be plenty of obvious to any reader which character I'm referring to. So go ahead, read on.
That's so funny. It's I mean, I'm assuming it's just the invisible girl.
Could it be, or could it be? Well, we haven't gotten that far. But what's the scary guy? Shigaraki, the guy with the hands on his face. Yeah.
Oh,
okay, so Punchy hasn't
that
gotten
makes
that far.
sense too.
Oh, okay.
But that would make total sense for hands.
Nice touch is we get to see like the resolution is not great, but we get to see their cards that they submitted asking for their costumes. Style sense for a man who can't stop sparkling. Bakugo's give me something scary, dynamite all over it. And Ochako draws kind of like in a little loose-handed doodle. Just put something here and here to help me keep me from getting sick.
Oh,
but she
that
doesn't
is
really.
So funny.
Yeah. Oh, what's his name?
Yeah, they made his skin tight.
Yeah, she
and
didn't
then we
specify.
get our first look at Minetta's character.
Oh boy.
A cool cape that flutters. I'll leave the details to you guys. Yeah. He thinks highly of himself. So
yes, he does.
Deku has to register his quirk with the government, and All Might explains that it's no big deal. Like once in a while, if you figure out that your power isn't what you thought it is, they can update it. You technically have nothing on your quirk, so hopefully they'll just update it for you. And Deku's mom makes him a cool outfit herself. And this is where she basically makes it clear that I said something awful to you. I've always regretted that. Back then, I just gave up on you, but you never quit, Izuku. You kept chasing your dreams. I'm sorry, Izuku. So for her, making the costume for him is a way of apologizing and of saying, I support you fully. So even though they have like the government making these costumes, he's gonna wear mom's costume because it's special. What a chat.
Mama's boy.
It is kind of dumb looking though.
Oh yeah. I think he looks like a donkey, right?
Yeah.
No, he looks like a bunny.
That's what I was thinking, bunny.
Yeah, I was thinking a bunny, but I mean a donkey with the mouth, I guess. If you take it with the mouth.
Yeah, I do love how it I mean they basically bring it up in the show and the manga, but I do enjoy the reference to All Might that his entire outfit is.
I wonder if he's even aware. Do you think it was like subconsciously he wants to be All Might, or
I mean maybe because he drew this back when he was a kid and he looked up to All Might. He's been wanting this for so long, which is how his mom got a hold of it to be able to make him something.
It's like he's a little kid who's like dressing up. It's like a kid dressing up in his dad's work clothes because he can't wait to grow up, right? Like, but he looks a little goofy still, but it's flattering.
Well, I mean, it's the kick-ass thing coming back again, right?
Yeah.
Like the kind of DIY costume where he's a new superhero just trying to find his way, and he's got like the bargain basement costume, but it suits him, as a character. And
I think Horikoshi does a nice job of lightly like the costume stays pretty consistent, but he sort of lightly touches it up over as things progress, so it progressively gets slightly cooler.
He updates the appearance and the gear over time depending on what level.
Yep.
To show what level of power Deku is at.
Nice. So
that is true.
the lesson, they do a lot of practical exams at UA, so they have to pretend to be heroes and villains trying to defuse a bomb. And All Might's kind of a nervous teacher. He's got cue cards for everything. There's even a gag that, wow, this sounds like a plot from an American comic. How about that?
Oh, I also thought it was interesting in the anime they made another like video game reference for that section, but they didn't in the manga this time.
Yeah.
It's like a fighter
with
pixelated,
yeah,
fighter
the little
game.
fight scene where they're showing them as like video game characters, and I can move on and then I'll fight, but then I'll lose the battle, and
yeah, it's like, let's battle, one of those.
Yeah, it's interesting when they kind of like it
fight!
seems to be. Yeah, it seems to be when they're trying to like interpret something like, hey kids, here's an explanation of what's about to happen. Then they get really creative in how they reinterpret or
oh god. All right, yeah, I'm not going to get into that.
Okay. So, the teams are set, and wouldn't you know it, Deku ends up with the girl he can't even say two words to, and Ida and Bakugo end up together. Like obviously Horikoshi's setting this up on purpose, but I like it. So the four main people we know are these four, and we're going to concentrate on these four for now, and we'll see more of these guys later. So Deku's team will be the hero team, and Bakugo's team will be the villain team. We're setting up Deku versus Bakugo, and his intensity keeps increasing. He's been punking me this whole time, that damned nerd. So for Bakugo, like, it seems like the kicker for Bakugo is the belief that maybe Deku was lying about being quirkless this whole time has really pissed him off.
The thing is that when I first read that, I was surprised that he was just thinking of himself, and he didn't just, because Deku's quirk hurts him. So how about, was he hiding it because he was afraid that Hatsuki would push him too hard or something? But no, the guy doesn't think that straight. He's too self-absorbed.
Yeah.
If you had superpower and you were waving and it hurt you, wouldn't you wait until you got into a school like UA before trying to unleash it, where people can actually watch you and make sure you don't completely murder yourself?
Yeah, but Bakugo, that's a great observation, because he thinks of himself, and like he doesn't even like pay attention to Ida. So Ida's trying to like be strategic and actually get a good grade on the assignment, and Bakugo just goes running off by himself, not caring about teamwork with Ida at all.
Oh my god, yeah, I hated this part because Ida tried to act like a villain.
I want to give him some personality.
Honestly, it got so cringy that I was like, okay, let's skip. Or let's shut it. It was so cringe that I felt like I was eating 300 lemons.
Interesting choice.
All right, I really want to talk about this scene, because this is kind of like what made the whole chapter for me. So absolutely. Bakugo springs out, blasts right at Deku. So Deku is terrified of this guy. This kid's been bullying him for years, and so as Bakugo comes in with his right hook, Deku goes in for a beautiful judo throw. And the anime, they even kind of like made a point of animating the movements of the foot and the pivot point correctly. So he just beautifully uses Bakugo's momentum against him and flips him right on his back hard. And then Deku kind of like has his heroic speech. So his point is that I've analyzed everybody in that notebook of mine, the notebook that Bakugo blew up and tossed out of the window. And one of the peoples that he analyzed was Bakugo, because Deku analyzed anyone who he thought was a cool and powerful hero. So Deku the wimp has mentally prepared himself for this moment. And his declaration is, I'm not the Deku. I'm not going to be your worthless punching bag Deku forever. Kacchan, I'm the Deku who always does his best. And in the Japanese, he's saying the same name twice. I'm not the worthless Deku. I'm the Deku like that Ochako saw.
I thought
Ochako
that was
saw.
so cute.
Yeah.
So cute.
Do you guys happen to, because I don't read too many shonen mangas, the whole idea of a superhero who gets one-ups on his opposition by studying them and taking exhaustive notes, is that something that you've seen show up a lot?
I've seen intellectual characters. Like I think JoJo, like one of the whole themes of JoJo is there's always some creative twist, right? Like the power's like this and it does something weird. So the heroes have to think outside the box to deal with the bad guy's power. I haven't seen
like a character who's specifically like builds his fighting style around taking notes, like Deku does.
I mean, I feel like the only thing close to it is just like Yu-Gi-Oh, where they're building their decks around what they think they're going to be playing up against. But no, I don't feel like that's normal.
Okay, because that was something I've been thinking about. I'm sure I brought it up in an earlier stream, but with One Punch Man, one of the supervillain, like the central supervillain, I guess, Garu. Marm, you probably haven't got to that part yet, have you? With Garu, the hero killer.
I've seen the first episode, so.
Okay, yeah. He starts coming in, I think in like the third season of the anime, which might not even have ever been made, or possibly like late second season. But one of his things is he does this like studying all the superheroes to get the one up on him, and he keeps like he gets like notebooks on the superheroes and all their quirks and special powers, and then kind of uses that to turn the tables. And he's got other traits too that are similar to other characters from My Hero. So that's why I was wondering, like, if they were both drawing from the same source, or if this is another one of those examples of like My Hero, because that was written after One Punch Man, correct?
Yes,
I think that's what we
really got to read. We really got to read episode 0 of My Hero some point, because the One Punch Man is even stronger. Yeah. Connection is even stronger there. Yeah, like I definitely think One Punch Man was in the kit of inspiration.
In the back of his mind. Yeah.
Okay. I've been thinking about this a lot, because it's like it's not that I haven't seen intellectual characters in manga, but I haven't seen like, especially in Shonen Jump, the stereotypical personality of a Shonen Jump character is Goku, like very upbeat, very optimistic, very dumb and training oriented. So
yeah, he's the meathead. He
I
punches
power
things.
Up.
He eats a lot. He punches things. He has fun. But I'm like specifically like not even just an intellectual character, but very specifically like an otaku character, right? Like a comic book nerd who's super into all the minutia of the superheroes and takes big like notebooks and maps out everything in that way. Like it's a very specific type of intellectual.
Yeah, I haven't seen a character like Deku in this role. I've seen otaku characters. I haven't seen one where like the theme is the otaku has to outdo the Giga Chad, natural born fight. Now one thing I do see a lot of is kind of like the theme of talent versus effort. So like characters have explicitly said Bakugo is a naturally gifted, talented fighter. He fights instinctually. Deku isn't naturally gifted. He's a Rock Lee. There's an element of Rock Lee in that. You aren't born with these natural gifts, so you've got to bust your ass to keep up with the kids who have all these natural gifts.
Also, hi, Fly Fox.
Yeah.
I was just saying hi.
Fly Fox Pro is here. What a cool guy. Welcome to the show. One last thing I want to say about Deku's judo throw before I forget it is I think it's a conscious and brilliant connection on Horikoshi's part. So the physical point of a judo throw is using your opponent's momentum against them. Mm-hmm. And then when Deku says, "My name is Deku," what he's doing to his bully is saying, "The name you gave me isn't going to define me. I'm going to define the meaning of that."
That was
that
good.
Yep.
Nice.
He's redirecting.
Symbolism.
He's redirecting his foes' attacks and to make himself stronger. So I love
Symbolism
that.
through beating someone up.
Yeah. So we finally get our flashback. What is Kachan's deal? They grew up in the same neighborhood, and this difference in their perspective is emphasized. Deku, since he was a kid, his motto has been "People are not born equal." At the young age of 4, I realized that about society because he got his ass kicked. Bakugo, since he was a little kid, has absolutely believed in himself as this top-notch. I will be the best hero in the world.
Alpha dog.
Yeah. So he communicates with Ida. Ida's losing control of the situation. Oh, and you have this tape. So if they can just wrap tape around someone, then that counts
Capture
as
tape.
Yep, capturing them. So Deku's bright idea is, Ochako, you run ahead. I'll hold off Bakugo. And he's trying to use the capture tape and think ahead, but after his kind of like first hit, Bakugo changes up his fighting style. Once he figures out that Deku is reading his moves and paying attention to him, Bakugo tries to avoid using the same predictable moves over and over again.
I love that because they're like helping each other out without knowing it. You know, you kind of Bakugo's really smart too. He just does it in a different way than Deku does. But like the fact that now he's understanding that his stuff is predictable, he has to change it up, and I like that.
We're also
Okay,
getting
go ahead, fanboy. I guess that's a good way to put it. Not, you know, he's the fanboy superhero, and he uses his fanboy powers. You know, knowing everything about the comics and just spurging about it, and that's what gives him the edge.
I like that we get the students and All Might's perspective on the fight, so because it's giving us like a range of views. Like we see what happens, and then we see the characters responding and thinking about what happens. So All Might's kind of put 2 and 2 together that this is part of how Deku fights, is he's kind of like been mentally preparing for this. He's taught himself how to do this because he wasn't gifted. And All Might sort of struggling with, you know, should I stop this as Bakugo increases the violence of the situation. We also see Deku's inner monologue. So again, he's a thinker. So he kind of like puts 2 and 2 together on what's happened. He deduces that Bakugo must have run off on his own, and our best shot is for me to find some way to incapacitate Bakugo and then go back up Ochako, because then it'll be 2-on-1 against Ida. And
yeah, Deku is realizing that Bakugo has tunnel vision, and realizes that his partner could easily go and get the win.
Yeah,
because Bakugo just wants to get their hands up on that Deku.
Exactly, and I love this. He remembers when he was cringing to Bakugo. Bakugo says, "Did you really think you could rub shoulders with me?" And Deku's response was, "I wasn't saying I could compete with you, not at all." And what he tells himself is, "I take that all back. I do want to compete with you. I do want to beat you." There's that great face.
Love it.
Yeah. This whole part here, like this whole exchange, you know, now I realize that none of you have seen Akira. I guess it doesn't matter as much, but this is very, very classic Kaneda Tetsuo energy here. Except it's strange because the roles are reversed, right? You know,
describe it. Try to describe it for us. So, what's the Kaneda Tetsuo dynamic?
Well, basically, Tetsuo is the shrimpy little guy, right? You know, he's a young kid. He looks up to the cool alpha dog who is Kaneda, right? You know, and they're both kids together, and they're growing up in like a rough part of town. Tetsuo idolizing Kaneda, and Kaneda kind of being a jerk to him. You know, like they're friends, but they're not really friends. right?
Frenemies.
Yeah, they're kind of frenemies. I mean, they're probably more friends than Bakugo and Deku, but it's still this dynamic where Kaneda is looking down on Tetsuo and kind of pushes him around and makes fun of him, and some good-natured bullying, that that kind of thing. But then gradually Tetsuo. Gonna have some spoilers here, but you guys all know, Tetsuo, goes crazy and blows
He
stuff
becomes
up.
like the giant fleshy thing. Yeah.
Yeah, you know the basic idea of it. And Tetsuo
If you've
gains
seen
all these
South Park,
superpowers.
then you know.
Yeah, South Park did like a complete a complete rip-off of it. But Tetsuo is the shrimp originally, and then he gains these superpowers, and he eventually comes to challenge Kaneda as the new top dog. But in Tetsuo's case, he's very much a villain character, right? He's the guy who's going crazy and starting to blow up everything, and now Kaneda has to kind of try and get him put back in his place.
So here the little guy. So here the little guy is the hero, and the Giga Chad
yeah,
is the villain.
in this case, it's the little guy is the heroic character, and Giga Chad is the jerk. And in Akira's case, it's a little less clear cut. I mean, Tetsuo is kind of hero, but he's like an anti-hero, and I don't know. You guys will have to watch it.
I like this little drawing of just little Chibi Deku trembling over how he can't skip a rock.
Yeah, because I mean, these are kind of the things that would happen in their childhood too. Kaneda as the big cool kid that all the other kids look up to, and Tetsuo kind of tagging along and wishing that one day he can be as cool as Kaneda. And Kaneda's, he's almost like a Goku character in some ways too, right? Like he's kind of dumb, and he just kind of coasts through. But it's never read the manga.
Yeah, I gotta get into that. All right, so I want to build on that. So in the anime, one kind of nice thing about this scene is they have like this scary Bakugo music playing as he's when he's 4 years old, and he comes to the conclusion, I'm awesome, I'm better than everyone else. The anime is like making the point that this is him basically making his main moral problem. Deku's decided when he was 4 years old that he's weak. Bakugo decided that when he was 4 years old that he's the strongest man in the world, on the planet. And when he's humbled, it doesn't make sense to him. So he falls off a log. All Deku does is come down and offer him a hand. And Bakugo can't stand that because it seems like someone weaker than him is offering him pity and help. And he doesn't want that. And dun dun, in the first chapter, when Deku saved him, that this adds humiliation to it. I shouldn't have to be saved by a loser. I'm a winner, right? I'm better than him. Why is this happening to me?
I thought the translation in the manga here actually made it better than I guess it was at first with when I was watching it, because sometimes you watch it and you're like, man, why is he so angry? Like, he's just being a nice kid. But I guess that also might come from translation, because like him saying like you looked like you needed to be saved with the mentality of Bakugo, that does sound pretty bad. But that's not what he said, at least in the English dub anime, which I was like, man, it's just, I don't know. But that's just Bakugo's Bakugo, I guess. But yeah, this actually kind of made it a little bit better for me, where I'm like, okay. Also, we have some hot takes over here in the comment section.
Oh boy,
I was gonna say.
No, Makeke is not a MHA fan.
Yeah,
that's too bad. You're missing out on the newest season, man. It's so good.
It is interesting that the second comment, especially, spoilers. You probably missed this, but I am not a big fan of MHA. I don't hate MHA by any means, but I'm probably the least.
Josh, what is
the
he
least
doing
into
on
it.
here? Get him off.
out of anyone. So yeah, comparing MHA to all the actually good works is exactly a sneaky way. Well, it's a sneaky way for me to make it sound better, I guess. If that
We're
makes
basically
any
trying to
sense.
convince one punch man to all punchy to actually enjoy MHA.
Yeah, I'm trying to find ways to make it a bit more fun.
You gotta enjoy it ironically. Like,
well, no, I can't enjoy it. Well, the thing is, like, I guess this is a good moment in time to get into this because, you know, I saw this on the anime version, and the anime version actually the fight is really well animated, and it's genuinely pretty good, and I enjoyed it. Sort of. My my problem was the same problem that I've been having all along, though, and that's the fact that I can't really get over the idea that they're all just kids in school having classes, right?
You need to get farther then.
I mean, yeah, I've been told like eventually they'll get out of school, but for right now, for all the MHA that I've seen, it's really difficult to get into it because, you know, I'm not a little kid, I'm not in school. Oh God, did I?
Oh.
Alice is gone. Okay, well, you know, and the fact that like, oh, they're having this cool fight. Yeah, but there's no stakes there. The stakes are, you know, one kid gets a B plus and the other kid gets an A minus on his homework.
All right, so I want to argue with you, Dan. So one thing that's striking me is that we're using a class assignment as a framing device for the developing the characters, right? So it'd be like if you made this a football game or a wrestling match or a basketball game, the human drama would be the same. There's a young man who is full of himself and his pride has built him up, and there's a young man who's humble, who's only just started to believe in his ability to do this, right? So that's the I don't know, that's the soul drama that's going on, and the vehicle is crazy superhero mock battle.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that's not the case. I mean, that definitely is the case. There is this interesting, you know, interpersonal drama, but it's still just, you know, kids having a class and taking a test.
Did you finish season 1? Did you finish season 1 you watched through?
Well, I must have fallen asleep through all these episodes because I thought I'd seen them, but I went back through them like a few hours before we went live, right. And I realized that actually no, these were episodes that I hadn't seen, so I had to go through them. But yeah, I don't believe I've been through the first season.
All right, Alice, make all Punch Man watch it off screen so that he can
I mean, I'll check it out sporadically,
right.
And you know, I know like homework. I'll do the homework and I'll get through it, but it's again like I can get into something like One Punch Man where he has to get to the store because he has a coupon that's going to expire, like a coupon for kelp or something, and he needs to buy groceries. Like that's something I can relate to. You know, bunch of kids taking a test.
Well, speaking of, I guess the debate is My Hero Academia cringe? And speaking of, here's that great panel, Spyro and Alice.
Here he's
Ida getting into character.
Well, I think this actually works because it's supposed to be cringe. It's humorous because it's cringe, right?
I would agree with that.
Yeah. Oh, one more thing. This doesn't get brought up right away, but I love the detail that Ochako can't control her laughter, and then later when they're talking about the fight, they actually call attention to some of the strategic mistakes that are being made. So Ida, even though he's a little goofy in this scene, they play it for laughs. Mwahaha! I enacted a counter strategy against you by removing all the objects on this floor. So they're playing him for laughs, but he really did think ahead and make a plan to account for Ochako's power. She can make things float. I got to get all the things out of here by cleaning up.
But there's still a thing in there. There's still the bomb. Why didn't she just use her power on the bomb?
Because he's between her and it.
Yeah, I mean,
She has
so
to
she can't
touch
go
it with
through.
5 fingers.
yeah.
Ah, okay.
That's the limit of her power.
And if she uses it on herself or on objects that are very large, then it creates a delirious. Everyone has a weakness tied to their power. So, because Ida
And she
is
pukes up rainbows.
yeah. So because Ida is fast, Achako doesn't really have like a fighting power, so she's kind of stuck right now.
Okay, so she can't like she can't bring along her own sleeping bag full of things and then just use that as like ammunition or anything. Like she can't do that, or
That's something they could get into. Maybe Alice and Spyro? Do they ever get into something like that when the hero weapons builders are introduced?
She does get something. But
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, you're talking Ochaku. Yeah, I mean, she definitely will have an arc of where you're either for both things, fighting and potentially some gear to help.
Nice.
So,
Because
I
sometimes I don't know if it's a thing where Horikoshi didn't think about it, or is Horikoshi building his plot secretly behind the scenes, laughing maniacally when I know there's one of these things.
I mean,
Yeah,
as
well,
far
'cause-
as I've seen, it does feel more like he definitely has a plan for everybody and it's a really good building in my opinion, just because like they all got to start off, somewhat weak and like that, but it's they do get better as they progress and they learn about themselves and what they're bad at.
Yeah,
I don't know if any of you are MLP fans,
I
but
liked it. Are you kidding? I was in college in
Yes.
2009. What do you think all the theater kids were talking about in 2009?
yeah.
There were kids with shirts on that had that. Yeah, I remember that.
the reason being, I got into it through a Grimdark, which is a story with little to no hope called The Rainbow
Interesting.
Factory.
Oh
And
gosh.
every time Ochaku pukes up rainbows, I'm like, that song pops into my head.
And then you're
I
triggering
remember
way too many
that.
bad college memories. I remember like all of the edgy MLP fan animations that all my classmates were insisting I had. You have to watch this, Marm. It's so cool. No, why would I want to watch that? What's wrong with you?
That's so funny. You had those friends. I knew all of them, but
Yeah.
like I didn't get into that. And so it was only later that I was like, you know what, I'm gonna sit down and watch this just to see what the crap everyone's talking about. Because as a person who wanted to go for character design, I was like, why do people like this? I just don't get it. And so then I was watching it and I'm like, dang it, this is good.
They watch it for the plot.
Yeah. I was...
Okay,
yeah.
Sorry.
Kike does not have. Okay, this is kind of interesting. Thought on Soul Eater related to MHA. MHA is like Soul Eater run through a filter that takes out most of its interesting and good elements and leaving the cringe and sexual. I definitely don't. I love Soul Eater, right?
I love Soul Eater too.
Yeah, I do not want to bash on Soul Eater because I really dig it. But no, that's okay, No Kike. You're allowed to have an opinion. But
yes, you can talk as much
Even
as
if
you
your
want
opinion's
to.
wrong.
Well, that is one of the interesting elements.
Don't say that, you'll start a fight in the comments.
Like
I'd agree with no, Mike.
MHA's gotten blowback, partially because I think it's become so like once a thing becomes popular, then everybody reads it, everybody watches it, and everybody starts arguing about it, right? Like,
And
I
then you get the people who hate it just because it's popular, and that's why sometimes when I do talk to people that really dislike something, I'm like, okay, hold on, before you keep going on your reasons behind it, is it because it's popular? Because then we'll have, some issues.
Well, let me say something about that. So the reason I kind of like took a break after season 3 is I sort of reached a point where I thought, okay, I feel good about MHA. I feel like Deku's reached a nice, satisfying point in his story. And the reason I haven't forced myself to watch more is I forced myself to watch more Naruto after I felt that point. And then Naruto just kept breaking my heart and making me wonder why I was watching it, right?
Why?
So I get it.
Yeah, well, I guess That's kind of an interesting point that you bring up though, Spyro, like about like hating things. Um, and I think there's varying degrees of hate, and I really do think that we need to have like a whole new renaissance in words to describe how we might hate things. Especially in this day and age when hating things, like everybody seems to hate a whole lot of different things for a whole lot of different reasons. Like for example, like I wouldn't say that I hate MHA. I'm kind of more like mildly indifferent towards it. It's I don't think say that I like it, but I don't like hate it. Whereas
Hmm.
something like The Boys, for example, I've brought up The Boys in relation to MHA several times, and that would be something that I would say that I probably do like hate, right? like
I
a
hate Homelander.
visceral. And I actually think Homelander is the only interesting part of The Boys, especially later on. But um, it's just your feeling for things can be very complicated, right? And when we say we hate something, it doesn't really describe very much. There's a
Hmm.
whole wide sea of different kinds of hates that I think people really need to get a grip
I
on.
I
And
hate this character versus I hate the person who made this character. There's
yeah,
Yeah.
two
kind
very
of.
different vibes.
I would
Yeah,
piss on this. I would piss on this character's grave.
yeah, like you can hate something for being popular, but I don't think you'd go and piss on the creator's grave just because it's popular, right? Like there's varying levels of hate there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I do
um,
think there's like something to be said about like I'm totally fine if somebody dislikes, something that I enjoy and they have a constructive criticism about it. Like I'm totally fine with that. Like I'm actually very interested to talk with Josh later about some Code Geass. Uh because but I just like I
Yeah.
want to know why someone dislikes something. I don't mind if they dislike it. Like that's fine. We don't all have to like the same things. But yeah, if
No,
I guess one of the points though that I hate that I do actually hate is like if they say, "Oh, it's too popular." I'm like, "Okay, it got popular cuz a bunch of people liked it." I don't know what to tell you about that. Like you just hate that other people like things? I'm sorry.
I think the thing I said about Code Geass is I can't hate it 100% because thanks to Code Geass, the soup store meme
yeah,
exists because of Code Geass. So that's
I
one thing I like
yeah. Well,
about
I
oh,
it.
think
speaking of memes, did you make that Megalovania one with
I haven't had time yet because I've got to like get
oh
my
god,
I've got to get like OBS set up. I'm gonna make them as I go, like as I watch and get ideas for memes. That way I don't have to go hunting for whatever the clip is. It'll just be here it
yeah.
is. Now I'll make it. Yeah.
Well, I think not kind of in defense of that sort of hate, I guess, or not really in defense, but as like an explanation for that kind of hate. Like I I hate something because it's just popular, right?
uh-huh.
I think a lot of the people that hate things specifically because they got popular are aficionados, right? Like kind of hipsters. Um,
Yes.
and when they invest a lot of time and energy into something like music, for example, like I probably have the most experience with like music genres and subcultures and people hating on different music. um back in the day there was a band called Evanescence, right?
Yes. Yep.
Do
oh yes, they were
you
one of my
guys,
favorites.
yeah,
Still
a
are
lot of
in
people
some
liked
in some
a lot of
still are
people
in
liked
some
it.
cases.
Yeah, it was, they were a very popular band. um but at the time that band came out, right, like I was in the sort of underground operatic black metal scene, right? um all these kind of bands with female singers and sort of operatic elements, and a lot of people in that music scene, the scene that Evanescence could be seen as coming out of, really hated Evanescence specifically because it was popular. And it wasn't just the fact that it was popular, it was the fact that it was bringing normies in and they felt like, the normies were invading their space and they were gentrifying their genre, and they saw Evanescence as being kind of a watered down version of, like they might be really into theater of tragedy, for example, or
Gamergate,
within
Well-
Comicsgate,
Kenshin.
D&D
Well,
gate.
it's actually
Right?
Evanescence is actually soft rock, not
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can argue for it. I'm not saying it's crap or anything, because I kind of liked Evanescence too. I thought they were fine. But there were a lot of people that really hated Evanescence, and a lot of the reason behind that was the fact that they were just they felt like they were being pushed out of their musical safe space. Their scene by these normies
Are
coming
things
in,
better
so.
when you're underground?
Yeah, it's like they prefer the underground thing, because it's not really that it's underground, but it's the fact that you've got your clique and your camaraderie and the people that you know and like, and all of a sudden here comes all these outsiders that are stomping all over the thing you like.
So to connect it to anime, there is like for people our age roughly, like there was this culture where being into anime in the 90s was kind of weird. Now everybody's
it was really
all
weird.
the kids are into anime. And I feel like Shonen Jump, I don't know, I don't think it's fair to compare Shonen Jump to weird underground outsider anime, because I feel like Shonen Jump is trying to do the Marvel Comics thing. They're trying to make really fun breakfast cereal that 13-year-old boys are absolutely going to love, right?
Oh yeah. And in Japan they've actually been doing that for ages.
Yeah,
but,
that's what I was gonna say.
When like back in the 90s, when Shonen Jump was still exotic, it was very much that kind of hipster thing with DBZ. I remember the day that I realized that DBZ had been colonized by normies, right? It was because there was a time when only a few people watched DBZ, and where you had to be a huge nerd to watch DBZ, and then all of a sudden, I think it was like 1998 or 1999, around that time. There was a summer where there were a whole bunch of DBZ shirts came out, and everybody started watching DBZ. And the next year, all the kids showed up, and they were like, "Yeah, we love DBZ." And it was like, "Oh my god!"
All over Cartoon Network. I hated DBZ because I was overexposed to it. I just thought, this looks stupid. Why is everybody liking this? So I hated DBZ for years until I finally picked up Dragon Ball as an adult. Yeah.
I think
Well,
for me,
I liked it up to a point where the power levels started to get absolutely insane.
I mean, that's like the first episode, but okay.
yeah.
Myra, do you have a thought on DBZ?
I guess my biggest thing, just so you guys know where I'm coming from, or like see what I'm trying to get at, is that in this argument, debate, not argument, but I think the fine line that I'm trying to get at is like, I'm okay if you're saying that like because something got popular, you dislike either how it got changed, so it like went away from what it was intended to be, versus I don't like that now everybody is into it like me. I think there's a fine line between that, because like I would still argue that I like when people are into it too, because my fandom is now kind of expanding, and I'm like, I have more people to talk to about it, and I have merchandise that I can buy for my fandom. But I can understand, yes, if there's a change that actually happened that made people upset, that there were a bunch of people that started liking it because now the product in and of itself is different. And I think that's, if that helps kind of.
Yeah.
Reminds me of the manga called King of Thorns.
Oh, that's on my list. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
Well, that's the one we saw, right? The anime, or was that like the? Like
I
the
don't think you
storybook
saw it
castle
with
or
me.
whatever? What was it about?
A virus known as the Medusa virus has infected most of the people of the world. They selected a few people to save by cryogenically freezing them. Unfortunately, when they wake up to a madhouse of horror.
It wasn't the one that was like the old fairy tale castle that was covered in thorns, was it? Like,
No.
All right.
okay.
Let's save it for another one. All right, I want to bring it back to poor Deku. All right, he's been getting. Let's see here. So Ochako is holed up. She can't get at the bomb. I think Spyro and Alice, you were mentioning this before, but Bakugo isn't. He's a hothead, but he's not an idiot. So
Correct.
he can. Hey Alice, we're getting some feedback from your mic. All right.
Oh, hang on. Yeah, it is. That is the one. I think I saw it with Alice. So
all right.
You probably wouldn't be interested, but just trivia for any Alice fans out there. Yeah,
DM me, and we have seen maybe, it, so. Maybe it'll be a future stream topic. All right, so I want to back to Bakugo. So Bakugo's intelligence allows him to kind of like maneuver and use his power well. I think Momo makes the comment that, wow, is he making calculations? I don't know if Bakugo is smart enough to be like a math whiz, but he can definitely do really complicated movements and actions quickly. So he's maneuvering himself through the air, beating the crap out of Goku, and he pulls a explosion-powered judo throw on not on Goku, on Deku, right? So this is kind of like an ugly callback to earlier. Deku judo throwed him. He can't stand the idea of Deku being better than him, so he does an even more powerful judo throw for revenge on Deku. So, and again, the characters are making commentary. He's all instinct. They didn't think of Bakugo as a brain type guy. So what comes out is that Bakugo thinks that Deku looks down on him, and then Deku responds, "You idiot! I want to beat you because I think you're awesome." So All Might is kind of like a tortured teacher. He desperately is torn on whether he should stop this because this is getting out of hand. But on the other hand, he's afraid that if he stops this, he's going to take Deku earning his spurs away from him. So just as All Might's about to cave and stop the fight, Deku makes his move. So when he could basically kill Bakugo, instead he blasts up through the ceiling to shatter the floor beneath Ochako. That gives her weapons to work with. She needs floating small objects to manipulate. Once he smashes everything into a million pieces, she can do a cool attack where she sends a little bunch of rocks flying at Ida, and she gets the bomb. The heroes win. But Deku pays a price for this. Not only did he break his arm again, using the one for all power, his left arm is burned from Bakugo's attack. So Bakugo landed a hit on him, and just his indirect attack blasts everything. So Deku's power is clearly greater than Bakugo's, but he can't use it without hurting himself or killing someone he hits. So it's essentially everything is worse. Deku hurt himself again. Bakugo gets another painful reminder of what the power gap is between them, and the heroes squeak out a win. And here's some fan service. Here's a full nude.
I thought that was awesome.
They also released like a figurine that's just like her gloves and her boots.
Yes, Crunchyroll. That was so funny.
She started out as a dude, but at some point I realized she'd be a whole lot more fun as a girl. I keep wanting to properly introduce her quirk, but the right opportunity hasn't presented itself. I'm working on it. All right, and that wraps up the 20th chapter. So this is not G-rated. So I'm gonna turn back to.
That was a bit much. You probably just got demonetized for that. I mean, oh my god,
so much.
The YouTube overlords are speaking.
Yeah, well, I was gonna make a reference to that Asbo show, but that would probably be inappropriate too.
All right, so I want to hear.
Oh god, what was that?
Yes. Anyway, I wanted to hear overall thoughts on Bakugo versus Deku. Maybe start with Alice, and we'll work our way up.
Huh?
Alice, any like overarching thoughts on the first fight between Bakugo and Deku? Do you think it's a good fight? Does it work? Do you like it? Does anything about it?
It was good. we have to remember that this is the first time Izuku is using his powers and so he's not as trained as Bakugo. So we see it shows us the big gap between them learning how to use their abilities.
Yeah. Okay. You just struck something for me. Yeah. So Deku has more raw power, but Bakugo is much more. He's much more practiced. Bakugo, like he won that fight, and the only thing that Deku was able to pull out at the last minute was a big blast, basically. Yeah. Deku really can't beat Bakugo in a fight, but Deku manages to squeak out a win anyway.
I think it was yeah, sorry. I figured I was next. I figured I thought it was a great fight. And to kind of go along with what you guys are talking about, something that I think was really important about this fight in general is their mindsets. Deku may have lost to Bakugo in that one-on-one fight, but Deku was thinking about the goal of the entire activity, and what he did, while it may have gotten him burnt up by Bakugo, him like specifically in this panel here with him moving it up, and he was making that and he was still talking with Ochaku, like he didn't forget about her, and that he was actually like still thinking about what they actually needed to do for their assignment. Shows the difference between them here. So even though fighting wise, there are definitely two experiences. Bakugo being much more practiced and experienced, and Deku not. They are still the same age. They've been in school the same amount of time, and so mind wise, it doesn't matter what like you can physically do, as long as, and which we can also see in the earlier portion of the fight where Deku was using his knowledge against Bakugo in his own favor, which I thought was a really interesting point, that he didn't have to have that ability yet, as long as he knew how to use himself against his opponent, I guess. So I thought it was really good character development even just there.
Yeah. Deku's a mostly powerless hero. He has a great power, but he can't really use it properly. So he's stuck still, basically trying to be a badass normal. Just use his natural intelligence and grit to get through these things. So
right.
Well, Punchy, have we convinced you yet?
Well, no. Well, a couple things. First off, before I forget, Misfits. That was what it was. The Asbo superheroes things. I don't know if any of you guys were familiar with that. It was
no. Tell us a little bit about it, because I bet there's something good here.
British. It was actually really good, but it was from like 2010 thereabouts. It was a British superhero show. One of those like early, like we're deconstructing superheroes kind of things, like a comedy, but it's with superheroes. You haven't heard about it or seen it?
I looked up a picture of it.
Okay. Well, basically, it was a group of kids that. It's called an ASBO, antisocial behavioral order. They're basically like petty criminals, like juvenile delinquents, and they have to go into community service. And while they're out doing community service, they get caught in some kind of weird. It's never really explained what it is, but it's some kind of like energy storm or something. And in the wake of the energy storm, they all discover that they have superpowers, or most of them have superpowers. One kid doesn't seem to have any superpowers at all, and he's kind of pissed off about it. But the reference that I was going to make, though, because if you've ever seen Game of Thrones, Ramsay Bolton, like the real creepy guy.
Yeah. Wait, are those the guys who skin people?
Yeah. The real bad Bolton guy from the show that everybody hates. His actor was actually, he got his start, I think, in the Misfits as the Invisible Man from the show. And he winds up using, like, they all wind up using their superpowers to carry on being juvenile delinquents, basically, right? Like they're superheroes, but they act like bratty teenage kids running around. And of course, the Invisible Man guy, he uses it to go spy on, chicks changing in the locker room, and doing like petty crimes and stuff. So that was kind of what I was thinking when they came out with like the nude. So I was like, oh god, she's gonna be she's gonna be like one of these Asbos or something. But probably not. I don't think it's going to go that way, is it?
I don't know. Does it have like a British kind of like Monty Python sense of comedy to it?
Oh, what, Misfits? Yeah. It's kind of it's not really Monty Python, but it's very it's very postmodern and kind of not really edgy, but it has, oh god, League of Gentlemen. If you guys ever saw those, not the Extraordinary
League
Gentlemen,
of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Not the Extraordinary Gentlemen, the regular Gentlemen. They were like a British sketch comedy from around the same time, or Ricky Gervais. If you ever seen anything with Ricky Gervais, it's that kind of like
sharp British.
Yeah, sharp, right. A little cynical, a little snarky. It is actually really interesting as like if you're into like superhero media that takes kind of a more postmodern swing on superheroes, but yeah, basically, long story short, it's a show about superheroes who just act like juvenile delinquents with their superpowers. And what would the consequence be if it was like real world teenagers and like college kids suddenly get all these crazy superpowers, and instead of just becoming, like, I'm going to fight crime, I'm going to fight supervillains, they're like, hey, I'm going to cheat on my test, I'm going to go out and sleep with a whole bunch of people, I'm going to, use it to steal beer, that kind of thing. Yeah. The other thing was, in relation to the fight itself, because this whole like I just keep thinking about Akira with Tetsuo and Kaneda, and battle vixens. Oddly enough, if specifically with Deku and his inability to really control his power, because the main heroine from Battle Villains is very much like that. Like she's kind of just a meathead, and she doesn't really have any control over her own superpowers and super strength. But that is completely in the other direction from my hero, so right. I won't really get into that.
So I'll punch. Spyro found something really interesting related to your question earlier. You asked, I wonder if Eraserhead is an homage to David Lynch. So she found a Reddit discussion of it.
Yeah,
it was basically just people on Reddit saying, "Gee, I don't know, maybe," but
I've got that in the other tab right now. I looked it up during one of the pauses. Nobody seems to know. There's actually, because I tried looking at Wikipedia to see if there was any information on that, and I couldn't find any information, but the Wikipedia entry on Eraserhead has a diversion to Eraserhead from My Hero Academia. So there are people out there that are trying to draw that comparison, but I haven't been able to establish anything.
I mean, in that Reddit thread too, they did mention that I guess David Lynch is pretty popular in Japan, so maybe that is part of it. So
it could be. Oh no, Mike. Yeah, I was bringing this up earlier. Kind of just spitballing it, but things like when Eraserhead My Hero Academia first shows up, he's in this like sleeping bag cocoon, all swaddled up. that maybe that's reference to the baby from Eraserhead. The idea of bandages, because Eraserhead in My Hero Academia, he uses bandages. Bandages are also something, a theme played on in Eraserhead. Watching things is a very Lynchian idea, because David Lynch, a lot of his work has to do with like critiquing television, and mass media. So maybe the watching is a Lynchian reference, but this it's probably not. But I could look around, try and find out if anybody watching this happens to know too. You could just opine on
There's
Twitter,
a CBR article too, but the problem with CBR articles is they're always listicles, right? Here's a list of interesting factoids. Yeah. So,
yeah, I realized that after I sent it over. I was like, well, it doesn't really necessarily say if it truly is, but I did think it was interesting for some of the other aspects too.
Yeah,
we're not the only ones.
My headcanon is going to be that it's is that he's a David Lynch reference. He's Homeless Emperor mixed with David Lynch, but mixed with Ayn Rand, I guess.
Alrighty. Well, this is the end of the last chapter we had to cover for today. So I'm just going to remind everybody, if you check the description, I should have Twitter handles for everybody. All of you guys are independent artists, actually. Punchy, I don't know if you post a lot of art on your Punchy Twitter.
Oh yeah, I don't post any of my stuff on my Twitter. I don't want to get canceled.
Yeah. I know you through your secret. I only know you through your secret Twitter account.
I've got like 6 or 7 different secret identities, but I used to do art. Right now I just do AI, unfortunately. But
unfortunately,
find Alice Snow and Spyro Shirtigal on Twitter. They both are working on creative projects. If you like anime husbandos, Spyro's got you covered. Alice is working on writings. Spyro, Alice, do you guys want to say anything about creative projects you've been working on?
It's the first chapter is free to read.
Right, you're working on a book, and that's on your Patreon, correct?
Uh-huh.
Let me see if I can.
My husbandos is a new thing. It didn't mean to be my persona at the moment, but
okay, you do much more art than just that. That's just the most recent thing I noticed.
That's really funny though. That's funny. But yes, I've been practicing those, so there's my recent.
Oh, also I'm doing commissions.
Oh, very cool. Okay, so for Alice, let's see. I have it linked in the description. It's Alice White Rab 6. Is Twitter your main place for people to get in touch with you? Twitter and Patreon, Alice?
Yeah.
And then Spyro, this is perfect. Spyro's username on the screen is her Twitter handle. Do you do Instagram or Patreon, Spyro?
I don't have Patreon yet, but I do have Instagram and all the other things. You can watch me on Twitch, that sort of stuff.
Awesome. And you're a very talented artist, by the way. I love having you guys on to hear your. I love to hear from other creatives about the nerdy things I'm enjoying. So awesome.
Oh, show.
Well, we've wrapped up. I'm very proud of this title, by the way. I think the new title of the series is My Hero PODCADEMIA.
I saw that.
Actually, no Mike is saying Soul Eater has obvious David Lynch references.
Really?
With the Red Room and a dancing devil. Could we change this to Soul Eater instead? Like pretend that we've been doing Soul Eater and just switch over.
Man, I want to. Yeah. Okay. I know. Okay, Spyro. I know you and I have watched Soul Eater before. Alice and Punchy, are you guys familiar with Soul Eater?
Yeah,
I know it.
I know
it, but I haven't watched it.
It's definitely worth a look at. And now that I'm kind of like, it's like, I just found out some weird potential lore about it. I guess I've got to watch Eraserhead the movie and then try to see if
Oh,
there's
no.
like some hidden connection going throughout all this. Yeah.
David Lynch. I mean, if you haven't seen David Lynch before, it's difficult to get through his work sometimes.
Okay.
I really like him, but
Mind bending.
He's like the thing that the film school hipsters really liked. Like it's really weird and off the walls. But
it probably won't beat the postmodern art films we had to watch. I don't know.
well, he's one of the best postmodern art film guys. He is very much an art film guy, but he's more accessible than most, and he is really good. So,
do you know the Cremaster cycle, Punchy?
No.
It's like a 40-hour, like weird, gay, probably worshiping Satan kind of film. I didn't get it, but lots of goat people running around doing weird things. So.
Yeah, well, it's not quite. Yeah, I mean, it's weird, but the nice thing about David Lynch is his weirdness actually does serve a purpose, right? Like, it's not just weird for, it's not like the Mo Sislak version of Pomo, where it's just weird for the sake of being weird. But it is pretty weird. So,
right. I'm finding out all sorts of things I never knew I needed to go check out. Maybe not. All right. Thank you, everybody. We've got to wrap up. I am #1 Marmaduke fan. Thank you to everybody who's been joining the chat. No, Mike Kike, we don't hate you. We appreciate the feedback. I love a good feisty debate. Actually, Heidi, I think you said it very well. Spyro, I'm sorry. I've already doxed
I don't mind.
Yeah. All right. So Spyro said it well earlier. I don't mind hearing people tell me I'm full of it, so long as we can have a good argument about it. So, all right. This was a blast. So we will catch you all later. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.